Today we'll be doing the Gwent Balance Council tier list. It's a couple days late, I'm sorry about that. I was traveling for the weekend, and usually I bring my microphone for this kind of stuff, but I just forgot my microphone, so I couldn't record this. But we'll do it now. Hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully you guys are still interested. Let's get into it, see what we're looking at today. So, same tiers as always. Top tier, these are great changes, things that'll make really fun decks, or cards that might not get played, actually get played. Good changes are just things that will buff things, help things out, or nerf things that are too strong. It's overall good. Neutral changes, I don't really care one way or the other about either because I don't think it makes a big difference or because I personally am unsure how it's going to turn out. Questionables, I'm kind of similar neutral. I'm unsure how it's going to turn out, but I don't think it's going to be good, and I just kind of don't like it. I'm not too sure. Bad or changes I don't like. Constant, this is just the things that always get switched, and I might talk about them, but probably not. So, begin with the provision increases. We have Congregate. Now, I'm not a big fan of buffing leaders in general, but I think Congregate is one of the ones that's kind of stuck into its archetype, and maybe with more provisions could see changes. I would prefer, I think, changes to this than buffs to some of the Storm cards, things like Fall Knight, for example, things that can be abused in other decks. Overall, I don't really like leader changes, but we'll put this one here. I'm okay with it. Uh, then we have Force of Nature. This is mostly just for Koshé Renfree stuff, or non-Renfree. I am less certain about this one. It's mostly just Koshé stuff, but you can play relics with it. I don't really like changing this one. I thought this was already okay, but whatever. We have the Melody changes next. She did get nerfed, which is probably good. Melody was quite good last season, I've been told. As I said, I didn't play that many games last season, so limited sample size. I think I played like 100 or so, not that many. Musty Truffle getting a nerf. I'm a little neutral on this one. I do understand why Mushy Truffle got nerfed. It is carryover, it's very generic, but a lot of decks really need Mushy Truffle, so I'm not too sure about this one. The value is definitely there, and especially because bonded cards in particular benefit so much more for having extra copies of them than a lot of stuff, but not too sure about that. Shiru, though, is probably good. Shiru kind of took over the mid-range in Scoia'tael, especially in Devotion, and kind of just has always been what you play for. It's kind of fun to play with them trying to figure out what you want to play, trying to figure out the power and stuff, but it's really obnoxious to play against. And it really, for 10 provisions, it was quite good. You can do huge swings with it. I know I've done like 100+ point swings with Shiru, but it is quite good. So this is understandable. Biggest, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to try and put aside my personal bias. The only place I've ever seen Figus played is in Golden Necker Harmony. And this puts him out of Golden Necker Harmony range, so I don't see him ever getting played, potentially, unless there's some kind of, I don't know, combo deck. But I do understand they want all the defenders at 10. I don't really like it. This one in particular I don't like, because it actually had a spot in the game that now it doesn't have. So either it's going to be putting some jank decks, or this card's just out of the game now. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. Terror of the Seas, I'm kind of neutral on. Pirates was really good, but it had Seagull last season, so it's kind of hard to tell. Before that, it was also still really good, so I'd rather see other things than this get nerfed, because this is just your payoff card. Payoff cards should be much better than normal cards, but especially when you're playing like a leader that requires the payoff card. So I'm not a big fan of this. It was really good, not a great fan, but I guess it's okay. It's limited more than a lot of payoff cards are because the damage, you have to get the value from damage. If you have 50 armor on this, it can only hit 10. It's still only playing for 14. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this one. Highland Warlord's going down here, as everyone knows. Now on El Aristocrat is an interesting one. Frost was, well, it's always been a pretty good deck. The thing with On Aristocrat is quite strong. People have asked me in comps for it why this card is played. It's played because it's good. That's the base of it. It is quite a good opener. It's quite good because you get the extra 2 points from leader charge right away. Extra turn of frost is worth 2 usually. And you can put Crystal Skull on it. It has the movement. It does a lot. I can understand why this went to 5. I think it's fine. It's probably a good hit to frost. I guess we have to nerf. If we have to nerf frost, this is probably the one card you would do. But hopefully there's no more changes here. I guess I'll say it's good. Crow Clan Preacher. Now, here's the thing. We just nerfed Mushy Truffle. I'm trying to take these independently. Crow Clan Preacher, now cannot be portaled, which is a huge deal. And to be fair, I was playing Troubadours in my decks anyway, so I don't really doesn't affect me. But this is like the payoff card, where everything around it got nerfed. We got the Ale of the Ancestors nerfed. Now we have Mushy Truffle nerfed. A lot of stuff around this gets nerfed. Care Troll Days in those decks, that gets nerfed. So I am not the biggest fan of this one, to be honest. I understand it's really good, but I'm not the biggest fan of this. I think this hurts the deck quite a bit, and we're already hurting the deck other ways. But I guess this, like I said, this hurts a lot of stuff that gets nerfed. I guess it's more targeted towards that deck. Then we have Jan. He's going down here as always. I don't have any comments on him. Angus, we're going to put in neutral. He went from what, 6 to... Well, actually, we'll put this as good. We'll rate this overall. Now he got his 2 change thing through. He's now a 5 for 11 instead of 6 for 12. I much prefer that because 5 damage removal can now reach him. It doesn't feel like you or like just lost if you don't play 6 damage removal in your deck and they play this on you. And it's cheaper for the people actually playing it, so I can fit more stuff in the deck. So I like this. Gezeros, we'll put Gezeros up here. I quite like the Gezeros change. I'm actually going to stick it in here. I'm going to put Gezeros in top tier. I think this is an excellent one. Gezeros going to 11 means it fits in the same provision slot as Villavandrel and Forest Protector, and potentially as a symbiosis option for some points there. And Golden Necker movement is really taking over the movement decks. Like, you don't see non-Golden Necker movement very much. So hopefully this can maybe incentivize that a little bit. I like this quite a bit. It's giving some options to Scoia'tael. Francesca to 9 can now be Golden Neckered, which is potentially the one reason I could see like this. You want these to Vegas to be 10. But we're going to be trying out our Golden Necker Harmony again. I want to see if we can do some water shenanigans with this. It's a very interesting card. Didn't see any play before, so maybe in Golden Necker range it will. I know people don't like just throwing everything into Golden Necker range, neither do I, but I think this is a card where it makes sense to do. Just make it cheaper because its effect does take time, and it's not the easiest thing to answer, but the fact that it takes time, and they can punish it. 2 turns of damage can usually kill this thing. Fawn to 9 is pretty good. I like this. A Fawn is a card that I've always wanted to see used outside of Cultist, and then Cultist got reworked, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's mainly just a type of Roach card now where it comes out. You get like a couple points from its order. No one really spams things for this, but maybe there's a place for it. Could be interesting. Golden Necker, again, we'll like to play this in our thinning card. Same deal here. Sandor, I'll put him in good too. Clog. Clog's not a fun deck to play against, but it's not that great either, so I can see this like needing a little bit of help. So we'll put it here. And there are versions that play Sandor where they don't just put everything on top of your deck. So probably good overall. I really like this one though. LAS we put on last time, I think good. I think buffing the Elf Swarm deck's really good because that's a pretty traditional deck that Scoia'tael used to have that just kind of doesn't function very well anymore. So I like this change to it. Again, like it got a power last time, now it gets a provision. So yeah, overall, I do like this. I do like this quite a bit. Then we are on into Vandergrift's Blade. Put this one in good. I really like this one too. I don't know if I like it enough to put it in the top tier. No, I do like it that much. Vandergrift's Blade is just a really cool card. If you hit something for 5, it's 5 control. But then if you get 5 boost on it, for example, you're getting 4 or 5 boosts, probably is what you're looking at normally. So you can play for 10. That's much more stomachable at 7 than 8 provisions. And then you can combo with it, so it has some combo potential. I think this might actually get me to play some Northern Realms Knights again. Devotion Knights, maybe with Sieges, maybe with Duels rather. That could be fun. Siege Duels, old deck. As we don't see too much anymore. Erlen, now this one I'm a little more on the side about. So I do like buffing Elf Swarm. I don't think Erlen's the card you buff though, right? Because even recently we've seen a good number of decks, at least I have seen a good number of decks that just play, they just play Feign Death and like 4 elves and then Erlen comes out. So this, I would rather her not get buffed anymore because compared to things like Eudora, like a Fawn, she's so much cheaper and so many more points. It's kind of ridiculous. But I get that the point of the deck is to swarm, and she does do the swarm pretty well. But I would not have chosen to buff her. Like, there's definitely better targets. I don't know about this one. I think it might get thrown into a bunch of random stuff again. Penitent, though, up here at top tier. We can't talk about Penitent without talking about the Pugo, but he's in a different category. We are still in the provision decreases here. So I really like this. There's a few good 7 version things you can pull out. Pugo being obviously one, and the other one being Imperial Manticore. Those are quite interesting things to pull out with Penitent. And at cheaper provision values, maybe we'll see him get used. Maybe you could fit him in your decks now. At 7 is pretty expensive. 6 versus 7 is a pretty big difference. Like one provision, always one provision, but 6 provision cards are a lot easier to find spots for. Maybe take out a Dragory to try and run this. Very interesting card. I like to see it. And now we are into the power increases. So first up, Renfrey, right there. Renfrey's gang, right there. I think I've said my thing on Renfrey quite a bit. If she's 1 power, people still play her probably. I mean, we saw her, like I said, I didn't play that many games last season, but she was the second most common deck we saw was Renfrey, which I think is just small sample size. I don't think that's true of the ladder in general, but whatever. Force Protector, I really like this one. Force Protector, we'll put him next to Gezeros, because at 11 provisions, like Gezeros, he didn't change provisions, he gained a power, but at 6 power, his floor is much higher. He just lost to Phil Evangel, right? He just lost the balance versus Phil Evangel. Phil Evangel is just better. So now with an extra power, maybe compete a little bit, gives us some more variety in Scoia'tael. I like having those options there. Riptide's going here. I have a feeling people have a lot of dumb arguments for Riptide. Not that they are dumb, but like Riptide has to be 10 power for Might. Come on, guys. No one's doing Might Riptide. Come on. That's not why you play Riptide, to set your Might off. But yeah, whatever. The auto-include card. Squirtle, this is when we're throwing way up here. I really love the Squirtle change. We talked about last time that was going to get like a power and a provision. I really like that it has that as a devotion option for warriors. Quite strong. I like having things like this to compete with raids for damage. And at 7 power with King Bran, in round 3, looking at 14, 7 removal, you can bring it back with like a Fukusha. Quite interesting. The Devotion Warriors will be the first deck we do this season. Probably going to record that right after this tier list, so he's going to get used right away. I'm really excited to try this out. Pugo going to power, this is good. Where's Penitent? We'll put him next to Penitent. We'll put him down here. He's a little less flexible than Penitent, so we'll give him good. But I really like this. Pugo's thing is that he's really big, but he might hurt your guys. Problem Pugo is he wasn't big enough. If you hit a 1 power token at 11 power, he's playing 10 for 7. That's not good. If you pull him out Penitent, he's playing 11 for 7, which is fine. It's not great, but extra power to him quite helps now. Especially if you end up hitting a 1 power token. 11 for 7 is much better than 10 for 7, because 10 for 7 is way better things. So I like this to him. Also some Ogroid synergies and such. No one ever blocks damage with armor on him, but overall, I like this one. Johnny I like too, kind of like Sarah. I like this. Johnny Sarah special decks were a thing a while back. Johnny doing damage just gives you a lot of reach on your special cards. So say you're playing something like a Sahil deck, or just anything with a lot of special cards, Scoia'tael with the orbs, something like that. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with Johnny where you just throw out damage, and he makes your specials better. And at 5, he's still reasonable to reach, but 4 power is just really low for him. Alright, we're going to take Slave Driver here. Now, Slave Driver got a different change than all this stuff in here. We're still going to put Slave Driver down here, but if Slave Driver were to not receive any more changes, 4 for 6, it's fine. It's a 6 version card. If this ever goes back to 5, it'll be one of the worst changes, because we'll deal with even better Slave Drivers at 5. People stop switching it, this is actually okay, we'll be fine. But I'm assuming people are going to change this back to 5 anyway and just try and take advantage of it being even better. So that's where we're at. I don't like this one, by the way. We're going to put this in questionable or bad. Put this one down here. I don't like the change to Siege Support. Like, this card was already played. What are the options for giving Zeal? You have Inspired Zeal, you have Siege Support, which people already played because it's 4 provisions. Then you had Vest. Vest doesn't get played. I've tried Vest a little bit, but this just means Vest never gets played, which I don't like. Because Vest is a cool card. I've tried to play Vest several times. I put Vest into deck lists, and I don't like this. Like, I've seen a lot of Northern Realms decks playing this already. So maybe I'm being a little harsh here. Maybe I'm being a little harsh because I'm biased towards Vest, but I am not a big fan of this power buff. Like, at 4 for 4 with giving Zeal and gets like a point. was fine already, but whatever. Now we are into, oh, not quite into the power decreases. We got one more. Back Alley Chemist, going right up here. Top tier. Self-Poison Syndicate with like Fallen Rayla and stuff has always been a deck I've really wanted to be playable. Or at least it is kind of playable. I want it to be like decent. The problem with it is you just don't, whenever you play Self-Poison, you just realize that the beginning of rounds is really awkward, right? So this is a help to the beginning of round. It gives you a way to poison yourself without being terrible value. Like 4 for 4 on this just meant usually just died like Tourney Joust or something. And then you have a way to poison your guys that you want to poison because you don't want to play the things you want to poison first. You want to play a setup card to poison them, and this functions in there kind of like Gellert does. So I like this one. Onto the power decreases. Let's see what we've got. We have Ardfiend Heavy Cavalry. I get this one. It's just for Crystal Skull. It's kind of like Griffin Witcher. This is only your Crystal Skull. Ignore Crystal Skull. This card's still good, like fine. It's not bad. But I get it. Crystal Skull in this card's obnoxious. I also get it that it's at 3 power. It's just worse. It's still okay though. Like before at 4. I don't know how this does at 3 power. It still does the same function outside of the Crystal Skull stuff. There's just a nerf so it's easier to kill Crystal Skull, I believe. But especially with Crystal Skull, it's just annoying. I don't see how that it's still going to be annoying there. Outside of that, though, now if you play it like range next to a unit, it goes to 5 instead of 6. Okay, it's easier to kill if they throw it down range later in the game. They open with it, it's 4 because it gets like the 1 armor. When it ranged. I don't really care one way or the other in this one. Might try it out though. Avaloq Sage, losing a power. Like I said in the last one, at 8 provisions, he's pretty scary. Just making a little less tempo is fine. I'm not a fan of him at 8. I don't know. Maybe I am. Hard to say. He does make things interesting because you can do artifact stuff more consistently. Corrupted Flaminica, getting another power decrease. Next to literally over here. Like I said before, payoff cards should be much better than regular cards, but Corrupted Flaminica is above those generally. Like, compare her to a lot of other finisher cards, right? She's just way better. See, like 30, 35 point Corrupted Flaminicas. I think the lowest one I've seen is like 22. And stuff like Korean Golden Child can get that big as well, but it's not as consistent. So she's consistently always very big, and you can revive her. So I can see this. Probably good overall. Pro Mother, getting a power nerf. Let's throw her in here. The reason we're putting these all together, I think one of these would have been fine, but this really hurts Druids. Druids probably, we're gonna discount Seagull. Discount Seagull. Druids were quite good, like one of the better Skellige decks, so I can see nerfs to her. And she just come back. She's what, 15 for 10 if you bring her back 3 times. I mean, 19 for 10 because you get the 2 extra crows at the beginning. I can see it now. She's what, 16 for 10. I can understand this one. I don't feel too strongly about it. Corsair. Corsair between neutral good on. It does have a really high ceiling, and it does do a bunch of damage, which is annoying. But Pirates got... I'll put this one good. I'd much rather see change to this than this, for example. So, I think this is probably overall... I'll say it's good. It's a really annoying card. It has a really high value ceiling. It sets up all the stuff for their leader with the armor. Yeah, we'll say it's good. The ceiling is really high. It does take some setup to get there, but come on. Usually they have like if something's been hit by the other pirates, it's not that hard as it sounds if we were to just take it out of context. So probably good. Eudora is a good change. Eudora plus Zoltan just it's kind of everywhere in Skellige, and making that a little bit less tempo is good. At least throw down Zoltan with Eudora, and then, oh look, they have so many points. Maybe they're going to 2-0 you. Can't catch up. Eudora does thin the deck quite nicely. So overall, I think I like her getting a power decrease here. She was just like better Roach. You can't brick her as well, which is an advantage over that. So I like this. Sergeant going in there. Seagull. I mean, I have to put Seagull at number 1 here. It was obviously a stupid thing to buff it to 2. It was just a troll, whatever. Reverting the troll is really good. So we'll put that up there. Kind of obligatory. Wisp of Shriek losing power is good. Gets less tempo when played with all of the nasty stuff in the Shatterwing decks, which are annoying, but it does get used in much of other decks. The version to set down to 7 helped it quite a bit, so I think giving it the 1 power decrease is fair because it is one of the better, like, tutor from decks. Verdant Roche, I'm not liking this one. So, where do we put this? Literally Northern Realms was quite good. This is just a 1-point buff to that deck. I've seen it occasionally in other stuff. I'll give it questionable. Not quite in bad. I'll give it questionable. I don't like this. I don't think this is a good idea. Buffing Verdant Roche just kind of helps Melidly. Nothing else uses it. It's not really going to convince people who aren't playing that deck to play it, but I guess you want to give that deck a 1-point buff, go ahead. Not a fan of that, but too much else to say about this. I think the provisions and deck building requirements make this something people won't consider. 1 power on this isn't going to make people want to run it, I don't think, over what's already in their deck, because you have to build your deck for it. You have to have a setup where you can thin down pretty consistently. You've got to have things you don't mind playing off the top of your deck, or if they go out of order, you don't have to mind it. So I don't think this will be played in things that aren't already playing it, so just buffs the things that are playing it, which is Melidly, which does not need to be buffed in my opinion, but whatever. That's what we've got. So that is the tier list for this Balance Council. Overall, pretty good. The ones in neutral, fine. Do I want to change anything here? No, I really like these overall, I think. Pretty good. Most of the Balance Councils, to be fair, have been good. And just because something's in this constant tier, by the way, down here doesn't mean I disagree with its current status. It's just, I don't want to keep discussing them each time, so. Overall, pretty good. The only one that I don't like for sure is the siege support one. I could see people saying it's questionable. I could see people saying good, but it already does get played. So I don't really like it, but whatever. Other than that, pretty happy with the tier list. Yeah. But you guys I can see like being here. I'm probably a little biased for Golden Necker here, but it just loses a spot in the game. The other defenders don't lose their spots in the game when they get nerfed. But I've never seen this played outside of Golden Necker. Yeah, we'll leave it there. So that's the tier list, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like I said, we will be back tomorrow with decks. First thing we're going to be doing is a Devotion Raid Warrior list. I already built it, just haven't played it yet, but we're going to record that after this, see how it goes. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Tell me what you guys think of the tier list. Where do you guys put stuff on it? Overall, pretty good balance console, I think. This will be pretty fun one to try out. Nothing blowing me away other than like this I want to try. Maybe the Elves and Vandergriff's Blade and Self-Poison. But other than that, just overall, just pretty good changes. We'll try out some of them, see what fun decks we can make, and we'll see you guys when we do that.